Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Chloe Feng. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Residents are streaming back to Hong Kong as the National Day long weekend draws to a close. Indonesia launches Southeast Asia's first high-speed rail service with the help of China. And Hong Kong adds another 2 medals in the Asian Games, with the triathletes and paddler Wong Chun-ting both striking bronze. Hundreds of thousands of Hong Kongers are flocking back to the city on the last day of the long weekend. Those who decided to spend the holiday in town were treated to a range of festivities, including a waterfront carnival in Wan Chai, which will make a comeback this weekend. With the long weekend drawing to a close, residents who spent the weekend on the mainland were streaming back through border checkpoints. Crowds were seen all day at the clearance building of the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, with long lines at bus stations. Many families went on a short trip to Guangzhou or Shenzhen, saying the expenses are cheaper. Figures from the Immigration Department show that 1.38 million people left the city between Friday and yesterday, 70% of whom are local residents. During the same period, 1.2 million people entered the city, meaning there was a net outflow of about 480,000. Business was also brisk at the outdoor market at the Wan Chai Promenade. The seasonal heat deterred people from visiting in the afternoon, but more showed up after sunset. With the positive feedback, lawmaker Bill Tang and tourism leader Timothy Choi are calling on authorities to turn the market into a permanent fixture. The market will close tomorrow before resuming every Friday to Sunday in the coming 3 weeks. Indonesia has launched Southeast Asia's first high-speed rail, linking capital Jakarta and the economic hub of Bandung. The multi-billion-dollar project is backed, funded and run by China as part of its ambitious Belt and Road Initiative. Equipped with the same Fuxing train sets widely deployed in China, Indonesia's high-speed rail has drawn huge fanfare ahead of its launch. With the press of the button by President Joko Widodo, the first train officially rolled off from Jakarta today. The 142-kilometer service connects the capital with Bandung, the sprawling metropolitan hub of West Java province. In his opening remarks, Widodo named the railway as WOOSH, or time-saving, optimal operation, reliable system in Bahasa Indonesia. It marks the modernization of our mass transport, which is efficient and environmentally friendly, Widodo said. Reaching 350 kilometers per hour, a trip between the two cities now takes 40 minutes on the train, down from 3 hours on the road. But like many infrastructure projects around the world, the railway endured lengthy delays. Originally set to commence operations in 2019, the project encountered land acquisition disputes, environmental issues, and COVID. That meant the cost also ballooned from less than $5 billion to $7.3 billion, although much of it was shouldered by Beijing. China, which beat Japan in the fierce bidding of the project rise in 2015, has hailed the railway as a milestone for its Belt and Road Initiative. The project will serve as a shining example of China's might and open the doors to more collaboration in Southeast Asia. Premier Li Qiang rode on the train with top Indonesian officials during the ASEAN summit last month. Local media reported that the Indonesia government hoped to invite President Xi Jinping for a ride, but no timetable has been set. Turning overseas, at least 10 people were killed when the roof of a church in northern Mexico collapsed during Mass. Dozens of others remain trapped in the rubble, and the rescuers are working tirelessly, hoping to dig out survivors. Azam Khan reports.
Scores of people simply looked on in horror after the roof of a church collapsed in northern Mexico during Mass on Sunday. Rescuers toiled overnight, searching for survivors through rubble, but chances of pulling out anyone alive were fading quickly. At least 10 people, including 2 children, were killed, while dozens more were trapped underneath what was left of the Santa Cruz Church in the Gulf city of Ciudad Madero. Regional Bishop Jose Armando Alvarez Cano said the roof suddenly caved in as around 100 parishioners were receiving communion. Authorities said the roof came crashing down on rows of pews in the church, allowing the possibility that those trapped inside could still survive in air pockets. National Guards and civil defense units have been deployed to the area for rescue and recovery efforts. But the situation remains delicate. While rescuers are racing against time, removing giant pieces of debris in haste could result in the wreckage further crumbling and endangering survivors. Azam Khan, HKIBC.
Europe's top diplomat made a surprise visit to Kyiv to show the bloc's support in the fight against Russia. But Josep Borrell's visit comes as another Eastern European nation is on the verge of halting military support to Ukraine. Azam Khan tells us more.
European Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell made a surprise visit to Kyiv to mark Ukraine's Defenders' Day. Greeted by President Volodymyr Zelensky, Borrell pledged the EU's continued support for the fight against Russia. He also noted a recent stopgap budget bill passed by U.S. lawmakers did not include financial assistance for Ukraine, but stressed the EU's position remains unchanged.
From our side, we haven't waited for this decision to be taken to increase our propositions to support Ukraine. Well before yesterday, the Commission announced the proposition to the member states of a Ukrainian fund with 50 billion euros. So let's see what's happening in the US. But from our side, we will continue supporting and increasing our support.
Borrell added he hoped the decision by the US Congress, which approved the temporary spending on Saturday, will not be definitive. U.S. President Joe Biden acknowledged the funding to Ukraine was missing in the bill, but said he expected Congress to honor their word in a separate vote. Borrell's attempt to show a united and unwavering European front in support for Kyiv may have been premature, however, after a pro-Russian party emerged victorious in parliamentary elections in Slovakia, a NATO and EU member.
Mne sa veľmi nepáči, že Európska únia nemá...
In his victory speech, Robert Fico, who leads the party, promised to cut military support to Ukraine and kickstart peace talks. He also slammed the EU for being led by the nose instead of making its own decisions free of American influence. Last month, Poland also stopped its arms exports to Ukraine. Azam Khan, HKIBC.
2 scientists have been awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine for their work on mRNA vaccines, which changed the course of the global fight against COVID-19.
The Nobel Assembly at Karolinska Institutet has today decided to award the 2023 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine jointly to Katalin Karikó and Drew Weissman for their discoveries concerning nucleoside base modifications that enabled the development of effective mRNA vaccines against COVID-19.
mRNA technology was experimental before the pandemic, but has now been given to millions of people around the world to protect them against severe reactions to COVID. The same mRNA technology is now being researched for other diseases, including cancer. In the Asian Games, Hong Kong triathletes opened their count this morning, retaining the bronze medal in the mixed relay event. Sachin Kadavi reports.
The Hong Kong quartet of Wong Zito, Bailey Brown, Jason Ng and Charlotte Hall seemed to be in good spirits before the race. Veterans Brown and Wong were part of the Hong Kong team which struck bronze in Jakarta 5 years ago. Each competitor had to complete a 300-meter swim, a 6.67-kilometer bicycle ride, and a 1.86-kilometer run. Wong was first to take the dip and got things going for the SAR. Japan were the heavy favorites to win, having already clinched gold in the men's and women's individual races last week. Wong was fourth to get out of the water and jump on the bicycle. He pushed through in the run, giving the tap to Brown after finishing in 20 minutes and 49 seconds. Brown started off with a big splash when the Hong Kong team was in fourth place. With Team China in pursuit, Brown maintained the lead as she hit the road. Clamoring with the leading pack, Brown made it home in 22 minutes and 26 seconds, clearing the way for Ng, a relative newcomer in the sport. He made it back in 20 minutes and 52 seconds, and now it was up to Hall to see Hong Kong through. The SAR was in second place behind Japan as Hall finished her swim and made her way to the bike. China and Hong Kong traded leads a few times on the road, but started the grueling final run almost simultaneously. However, Huang Angqi left Hall in the dust by opening up a 1-minute lead and never looked back. Yuka Sato crossed over to claim gold for Japan with a combined time of 1 hour, 26 minutes and 21 seconds. The silver went to China as they finished roughly 90 seconds behind Japan. Team Hong Kong retained their bronze with a time of 1 hour, 28 minutes and 22 seconds. Sachin Katwi, HKIBC.
And in badminton, there was a shock exit for Angus Ng in Hangzhou. Hong Kong's top men's player bowed out in the first round after losing to his nemesis Li Zijia. Remy Young reports.
Meeting for the fourth time this year, Angus Ng and Li Zijia clashed in the opening round of the men's singles in Hangzhou. Ng had the upper hand against his old foe, winning all three contests in 2023 and 4 of 5 overall. Li was very sluggish off the blocks, and Ng easily ended the opening game 21-15 with a smash down the sideline. The 29-year-old Hong Kong star built on his early success, taking a 9-5 lead in the second game before the momentum suddenly shifted. His Malaysian opponent pocketed 6 points in a row to lead 11-9 at the interval. Li backed 6 of the game's final 7 points to take it 21-15 and set up a decider. Ng have run out of gas in the final game, looking exhausted at times and helpless against the onslaught of Li. After reaching the quarterfinal in both Incheon and Jakarta, Ng bowed out in the first round to continue his struggle for form this year. There was relief for Team Hong Kong as Tang Chenman and Tie Ying-soon cruised to victory in a round of 32. The silver medalists in Jakarta pummeled their opponents from Timor-Leste in straight games of 21-5, 21-15 to reach the last 16. Their SAR teammates Reginald Li and Ng Chi Yeo also had a winning start in Hangzhou. Making their second appearance at the Games, the Hong Kong pairing survived a heated battle against Japan's Kyohei Yamashita and Naru Shinoya. Li ended the first game 21-18 with a ruthless smash before quickly apologizing for inadvertently hitting his opponent. The Japanese duo were outclassed throughout the 45-minute affair. Li and calmly fended off a string of attacks before the rally went out of bounds on match point. The Hong Kong players will have a day's rest before returning to the court for the round of 16 on Wednesday. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
And that is our main news for Monday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Chloe Feng. Thank you for watching. Good night.